Well, good evening, Mark.
And good evening, Daniel. How are you today?
I'm not too bad, thank you. It's our first episode of, what we call Life in Spain Unfiltered. So, we're looking forward to it, actually.
I think the question is how unfiltered we're going to go. I think we should go quite easy in our first episode. What do you think we should talk about today?
I think we should be talking about the weather, as most people want to know what the weather's doing most of the time, and whether Spain is all sunshine and hot weather all the time.
I know I probably speak for you here that every time I speak to someone in the UK, the first thing they ask me is, how's the weather? Yeah.
Always. Always. And then don't even get me started on social media. What's the weather going to be like in May? Oh.
I'll tell you what, well, let's start off establishing where we are. We're both down south. We're both in Andalusia. I'm on Costa del Sol, and you are?
Costa del Sol, but inland by about half an hour.
So what's that, about 30 kilometres, no?
Yeah, just about that. It's just out on the outskirts of Malaga. It's close to places like Alarin, Alarin Grande, Coin, Monda, places like that.
Well, I think what will probably surprise people quite a lot is the difference in temperature between where I am and you are. I mean, we arguably have one of the greatest, probably the best climates, with the exception of the Canary Islands in Europe here on the coast. But explain where you are, how it is today, for example.
Well, today's actually been quite mild. There's no wind, there's no air, so it's behaving itself. It's a decent 18 degrees when I got back this afternoon. This morning when I left, though, it was a brisk 6 degrees, which when you're going on the bike, it's a bit nippy.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we're talking now in the beginning of January, and I would say that's a bit hot for where you are. I mean, I would say where I am, normally this time of year you're looking between 15 and 18 degrees during the day, and maybe drop down between 8 and 10 at night, depending on the cloud cover.
Yeah, exactly. I did a video not so long ago on social media, which was talked about the way that some of the sunny days can actually be quite chilly, and simply because there's no cloud cover, the heat is escaping, and people don't seem to realise that those logics and those physics do actually work on a larger scale as well.
It's a strange one, that, because I think I feel that the cold here probably more than I did in the UK. Maybe because I think it's the humidity being by the sea, and also the case of it's such a big drop. So you're up some days, you're up at, I said, 18, even touch 20. I think it's going to touch 20 tomorrow. But then if it's like you just said, no cloud cover, you can go down to 8. And one factor what people don't realize here is the wind chill. If you can see the Sierra Nevada mountains in the distance and you can see the snow on them and the wind is coming from there, trust me, it doesn't feel like 8 degrees.
You're going to feel it. And where I live as well, at the backdrop is a place called Sierra de las Nieves, which is the snowy Sierra. Last year we had a bit of snow on the peaks at the top, a little bit, not too much. But like you say, when there's a little bit up there and it blows, the wind's blowing from that direction, you definitely feel the difference.
It just seems strange that we're kind of like putting a kind of like a more negative picture on the weather here in the winter, because we are very blessed where we are. But the counterbalance that I would actually say I'm here for the weather in the winter, because the weather in the summer here is absolutely horrendous. I mean, on the coast, we probably in the shade, it's pretty touching high 30s, low 40s. But I know where you are. It's said not quite that. I know you've got a lovely story about a thermometer. Please.
Well, I moved in here to this house last year, and I thought last year was a hot one, but this year beat records. So the thermometer that I had on the side of the house, directly in the sun, which you're not supposed to have them out there anyway, but that's how we get the direct sun temperature. And the thermometer only went up to 53, and it broke because it wouldn't go any higher. Basically, it was boiling. It went higher than that, 53. So that was
like a cartoon thermometer exploded and all came out the top. I think people. If I had, I mean, you get it a lot here because we have a lot of nationalities who live here, and you do notice, especially the Scandinavians, they do get out of Josh. July and August, they're gone, and they're in their cabins by their lakes in Sweden or Finland or somewhere like that. And God bless those souls, because they've done the right thing.
Well, you'd want to do the same thing as well. If you still have the options and you haven't sold up everything like a lot of people do, to go and live the dream. But we'll talk about that one another day. The families and people that live or are Scandinavian or even in the UK that come from the UK, they want to go back to their own countries to enjoy their own decent weather with the family, and not be trying to sweat it out here in 45 and 50 degrees.
Yeah, but not to try and generalize the whole of Spain in one thing. As I briefly said before, I think the Canary Islands maybe has the best, maybe the best weather in Europe. I mean, only last week I think you and me had a conversation. I said I'm watching the Spanish news, and they're showing people on the beach in Gran Canaria and in the sea swimming. So they're very blessed down there, and that's good weather all year round. But once again, it does get hot in the summer. You say you go around the coast of Valencia, Murcia, Almeria. That's roughly the same as here. Maybe the Ibiza and those islands, Mallorca, it drops down a little bit colder, but not much. Barcelona, roughly the same. But when you go to the north of Spain, it's a completely different kettle of fish.
Oh yeah, I mean, go to places like Galicia, go to Santander, go to Gijón, Asturias, go around that area, and yeah, huge difference. But even, I mean, I remember you mentioning about Madrid as well. I mean, I've been to Madrid a few times with football, which is another topic we'll come on to another day. But I remember going there for certain games and it being absolutely freezing, and you really, really felt it.
I've told you this story before. I travelled up to see some football one January, and the guy who was driving, we made to do a detour because when we got to Seville, there was snow and the road had been closed. And I was like, snow, Seville? Surely that's like it doesn't really make sense. That. Then we got to Madrid, and it was so cold there. And I remember from years of growing up hearing people on the radio and the TV. Oh, they won't. These footballers from Madrid, they won't like it when they come to Manchester. They're cold. I tell you what, it felt colder in Madrid than it did in any day I remember in London, for example.
Well,
It's an odd one here.
yeah, you mentioned Seville. Again, football. I managed to go and see my team play Seville in a qualifying match in a certain league, and I was absolutely freezing. I was there, scarf, gloves, jacket, and I was still cold. So yeah, it does go to show. It's not all sunshine and blue skies always, and not every part of Spain is the same because of different altitudes and different areas.
Well, I think what people will be surprised to hear is, I mean, I've actually you've probably seen snow and frost where you are because where you are, but here we've had a couple of kind of what we thought was snow when it's actually hailed so much that it's covered the beach and people have thought it would snow. I've been here 22 years and I think I've seen that happen 3 times. Well, I mean, I vaguely remember last year there was a hailstorm and the hailstorms was huge, and I believe that affected you rather more where you were than where I am.
Yeah, but by the way, the image that you're referring to, I'm going to put that on screen now, so you'll be able to see that one just for a second. And it was one of those strange things. Everyone was making, oh look, it snowed, and it wasn't. It was just a hailstorm, and it took quite a while for it to go away. But recently here as well on my patch, shall we say, it was a freak hailstorm. It was the night of pretty, I think it was about the week after the floods in Valencia, and we had a massive storm, and at 4:30 in the morning, all of a sudden it was like little pebbles on a tin roof. And believe you and me, when I say little pebbles, they were the size bigger than chickpeas, and it was absolutely pelting down with hail, but only within, let's say, a 200 square meter radius. Holy.
Wow.
It was just this little hill, and it's just decimated all the plants, the trees, everything. It's an absolute mess. But no one down in the valley got it. No one further in town got it. It was bizarre,
You took one for the team, then basically you took one for the team.
basically. Yeah.
Perfect name. Perfect name. I tell you what's interesting with I mean, obviously, there's a lot of in the news. There's a lot of talk about climate change and things like that. What you've noticed here is a change in the type of tourism that I mean, tourism down here is always going to be coming down here because it's the Costa del Sol. But what a lot of the Spanish now aren't coming so much down here. They're going up north because the summers there are probably more similar to a perfect British or an English Southern English summer. I mean, you've holidayed up in Galicia. I haven't. So what do
If
you think of that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you go to places like Vigo, Vigo's absolutely beautiful, green, and the summers are nice, decent summers, 26, 28 degrees. Might get the odd shower day, but it's very, very pleasant. And I there's a huge contingency of Brits up there that I never knew that existed. It's not quite like the coastal areas, not like Benidorm or Costa del Sol or anything like that. But you're very surprised to go in some of the places up there and hear someone speaking Spanish, and straight away with the accent, you go, "Oh, hello." But for me, that was great because it was so many people actually speaking Spanish and not pretending that they just can walk anywhere and speak English, which we know happens everywhere.
And that once again another debate for another video.
Oh yeah, for sure.
100% on that one. It's what is interesting up there. A lot of people like to move inland there because it is green, and from pictures and videos I've seen, it's very similar to Southern Ireland or down in Cornwall or somewhere like that. Very rocky coast. They've almost got like the kind of almost Norwegian fjords type coastline and parts of it. I believe it's very good for the drug smuggling up there. A lot of the boats seem to land on those areas. But back down to where we are in Andalusia, I think it was only like 2 or 3 years ago that near Cordova here, they had the highest temperature recorded in Europe. I think it might be, I might be wrong here, La Rampla or something like that. It was called the Rambla or something like that. Yep. Small village outside Cordova. It was close to 48 degrees. That's in the shade, obviously.
Well, this is one of the things that when you sent me the information, I had a look at it and I was going, how do they actually? This has always kind of intrigued me. How do they actually register the temperature? And is it done through? So when I say the highest temperature on record, and the UK has this wonderful thing of bringing out a new temperature every year. Oh, it's the highest one on record. But hang on a second, wasn't it back in 1970 something? Anyway. How do they actually measure it? I mean, is it over a period of time? Is it in the shade? Is it direct in the sun? But I don't know. It's something that I've never really looked into that much.
Well, maybe it's the thermometers outside the pharmacies here, which they have on the outsides. Who knows? But
brilliant.
I do love it, the Spanish news here, because I do watch a lot of local news and national news Spanish. And every summer, it's like breaking news, hot temperatures in Cordova and Seville. And you're like, really? No.
So it's the same as last year then, basically?
Basically, just use the same footage and just change the time. But there we go. I think what we should do is we should expand on this conversation for another day and maybe have a talk about how it does affect people's lives here. Because it does affect the tourism. It does affect the way people live here, the way people eat here, the way people go about their day-to-day life and work. So I think that would be an interesting topic. Anything else
for sure.
today, Daniel, about our first ever effort on a YouTube channel about the weather?
Oh well, no, I mean we're gonna touch on many things throughout the series of what we're going to be talking about, but we're also going to allow people to get in contact and join in as well. So we want the interaction. So depending on which platform you're watching on, if it's on YouTube, you'll see down there the links and follows and comments and everything else. If it's on the likes of the other platforms, social media platforms, it's either that side or that side, depending on which one you're on. But no, we really want to be here. I mean, I've been here 37 years. Mark, you've been here 20?
Yes, well, coming up to 23 now, yeah.
23. We have a decent amount of knowledge with regards to living, working in Spain, and in very different scenarios as well. As in, you're an ex-business owner. I have worked in plenty of businesses over the 37 years that I've been here and done many, many different things which people would not believe if I told half of them. But anyway, I think we're going to be doing and covering quite a lot. But the interaction that we'd like from people is basically just join us, join in, give us your feedback, ask questions. And if there's something specific that you want us to talk about, then we'll do our homework, we'll have a chat about it, and we'll dig out some of the... not just the niceties, but also the raw truth about it. That's the whole point about it being unfiltered.
It is interesting. I quite often still read parts of the British press, and you see things on social media, and I'm sure is the case with you as well. You read it and go, "Are they talking about where we live?" Because they really haven't got a clue, have they? And there is a lot of stereotypes. There's a lot of old the rain in Spain stays mainly on the plane. Trust me, it doesn't stay mainly on the plane, as people will know from the recent news here with Valencia, and we got a bit of it here with the floods. So there are a lot of misconceptions, and I think over the next few episodes and over this year in general, we'll try and debunk some of those and tell you as it is. And that doesn't mean we're being negative about Spain. We both love living here. It's a wonderful country to live in, but I think it's good to kind of give an alternative point of view.
Yeah, for sure. And we should never forget that they are opinions and they are perspectives of our life in Spain over the years and the things that we've encountered. They're not written in stone. They're not gospel. They're not. We're allowed to have an opinion, and so are people that are watching us. They're allowed to join in and have their opinion as well.
Yeah, just remember in the comments section that I'm called Dan and he's called Dan. That's what you need to remember. Right, on that
Cheat.
on that bombshell, the two Dans, that I'm really Mark, of course. I bid you farewell, my friend.